My name is Dylan Hippo, and for this slideshow, I'm going to be presenting my debate on why I think Pluto should be a planet. Now, Pluto was discovered in 1930 by Clyde Tombaugh at Lau Observatory in Arizona while observing the skies with a telescope. Even with its small size, it was determined that Tombaugh had discovered a new planet. However, in 2006, the International Astronomical Union later determined it to be a dwarf planet. It is the largest dwarf planet known today, very closely matched to Eris. Pluto is actually smaller than many moons of other planets. Sunlight on Pluto has the same intensity as moonlight on Earth because it is so far away from the sun. The International Astronomical Union states the planet must orbit a star, must be big enough to have enough gravity to force it into a spherical shape, and it has cleared the neighborhood around its orbit. A dwarf planet is similar to a planet, but can not clear the neighborhoods around its orbit of debris. With this definition, Pluto would be considered a dwarf planet and not a regular planet, because it does not have enough gravitational force to remove debris from its neighborhood in orbit. Now, Pluto's size compared to three other planets, Mercury, Earth, and Jupiter, sits at 1,473 miles in diameter, Mercury is at 3,031 miles, Earth's size is 7,917 miles, and Jupiter sits at 86,881 miles in diameter. Pluto's density is about 1.88 grams per centimeter cubed. Mercury's density sits at 5.43 grams centimeter cubed. Earth sits at the highest for 5.51 grams, and then Jupiter sits at 1.33 grams centimeter cubed, being the lowest. Pluto's gravitational pull sits at 0.62 meters per second square. Mercury's gravitational pull sits at 3.7 meters second square. Earth sits at 9.8, and Jupiter sits at the largest again for 24.8 meters per second square. Now, the orbit length for each of these planets, Pluto sits at the largest for 248 Earth years, Mercury sits at 88 Earth days, and Earth, as we all know, sits at 365 days for 1 year, and Jupiter sits at 12 Earth years. Pluto's location farther than the other planets from the Sun, part of the Kuiper Belt, a region beyond Neptune that contains comets, asteroids, and other small bodies made mostly of ice. Now, Mercury, Earth, and Jupiter's location. Mercury is the closest to the Sun, Earth is the third closest planet, and Jupiter sits at the fifth closest planet to the Sun. Pluto has a rocky core that is surrounded by a mantle of water ice with methane, carbon monoxide, and nitrogen ice coating the surface of the planet. Now, in Earth, the inner and outer core are made up entirely of metal. The mantle is made up of hot magma and semi-solid rocks and minerals. Finally, there is the crust that we live on, made up of solid rocks and minerals. Pluto contains mountains that reach as high as 3,500 meters. Let's compare that to the Rocky Mountains. These mountains are most likely formed on a bedrock of water ice. Pluto's surface is covered in nitrogen and methane ice, but there are most likely structures underneath. A new study suggests that a liquid water ocean beneath its surface still exists today, at least in a partially liquid form. This is hypothesized because New Horizons showed signs that Pluto has been expanding, while if the ocean was frozen, it should be contracting. Thus, there is a possibility of a vast liquid water ocean habitat so far from the Sun. Nitrogen is also the biggest component, with smaller amounts of carbon monoxide and methane. The atmosphere is thin and lies over Pluto in a bluish haze, causing a blue sky similar to the Earth, but it extends around 100 miles from the surface. This information hints that weather changes day to day on Pluto just like on Earth. Pluto also is compositionally similar to many of the objects in the Kuiper Belt. Pluto's orbital period is also a characteristic of a class of Kuiper Belt objects known as plutinos. However, even with Pluto being part of the Kuiper Belt, it does not mean it cannot be a planet. Additionally, if the definition of planet was adjusted, possibly many Kuiper Belt objects could become planets. Eris is one of the largest known dwarf planets in our solar system, being about the same size as Pluto. Eris is located 3 times farther from the Sun than Pluto, though. Eris takes 557 Earth years, which is double what Pluto does, to make one trip around the Sun, and its orbit extends far beyond the Kuiper Belt in parts. For Earth, the hypothesis of the evolution of life on Earth started in hydrothermal vents in the ocean. Eventually, the more stable conditions in the ocean allowed for a steady supply of energy and basic molecules to evolve into the larger molecules needed for life. It is not known how microbes came about, but it is known that they are the reason the Earth has evolved the way it has. Microbes were the first cells present on Earth. They provide organic material, oxygen, and extra energy to the Earth. The oxygen produced from microbes actually accumulated into the atmosphere and gave rise to the evolution of different types of life. With this information, it is possible that eventually the conditions of Pluto can give rise to organisms like microbes. These organisms can help develop more favorable conditions for life on Pluto. Under the right conditions, Pluto could develop life, so it should be considered a planet. Pluto is defined as a dwarf planet because of its inability to clear the neighborhood around its orbit. This is highly debatable because many of the larger planets have thousands to millions of asteroids and objects that cannot be cleared. Given the complex geology of Pluto, with high mountains and similar terrain to Earth, many believe that it should be designated a planet once more. Do you believe Pluto should be a planet again? Thank you for sitting through this presentation. My name is Dylan Hemphill, and I hope you enjoyed that very much. And y'all have a nice evening.